Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Jim Collins, Excelsior Capital Partners, the Rising Series podcast. With me once again is Rick MacPherson, CEO of Birchtech. Hi, Rick. How are you?
Oh, just great. Thank you, James.
Great to have you back. The big news in the Birchtech world is that they completed an offering last week of 6.25 million shares at $240 a share. And I would also point out that Rick participated ratably in that offering to the tune of $750,000 of his own money. So clearly he believes as well. And I think it's a great vote of confidence when the CEO is investing along with investors. So thanks for coming on. I know you've been very busy, Rick, with the offering. And yeah, can you just, I guess the first thing we should ask is, with this money, which is a little above 13 million net before the over allotment, which would take it a little above 15 million, what is your sort of best first use of the proceeds?
Well, interesting question. First and foremost, we will clean up any and all outstanding short-term debts. We want to maintain our zero debt profile. And we think that's important for a company at our stage of growth to maintain. Going forward, we will be expanding our analytical capacity in North Dakota and our design center staff in Pennsylvania. We've been extremely busy and growing in that side of our business, which we see as the main driver of our entry into the water business. Not significant monies, but just basically ramping up on the people and the capacity of those facilities, because they're really paving the way into the water utility business,
Sure.
Which is our main objective over time. But no significant amounts of money, a few $100,000, nothing that's going to upset our balance sheet at this time. But longer term, again, no significant amount of money anticipated, other than we will use proceeds for our portion of the debt financed plants that we expect to build on the rejuvenation side of the GACs. And again, that's 15% on average we expect for each of the plants of the total CapEx. And those funds would be allocated over the 18-month building period. So again, no significant large drawdowns of cash in the coming years, for that matter.
Okay. And how many of those facilities do you plan on building, Rick?
We're planning on a half dozen at this time. So 6 of them, James, and they would start in the 12 to 15 million range as the base unit, depending on the size of the facilities that we were working with.
And those facilities are specifically geared toward carbon rejuvenation, or?
Correct.
Explain that to me as the ultimate layman here.
So in general terms, we see granular activated carbon as the go-to technology for meeting the PFAS regulations that are coming into play, either through the state or eventually through the federal division. So we see our ability to be able to place rejuvenation centers in strategic locations throughout the country as being a very wise strategic play on our part, given that we have developed the systems that are necessary, the processes that are necessary to do that, probably better than anybody else in the industry. And so we feel very confident in our press forward to be able to establish ourselves in that market. And these funds that we have raised will give us the CapEx requirement to be able to put multiple facilities in place across the country. And so we're very much looking forward to that process, which is now underway.
Sure.
And so as we obtain the offtake agreements from the utilities, guaranteeing that they will use our facilities, then we will start to announce our build out of the plants that we've discussed.
Okay. So that sounds like you're pretty far down the curve, as if site selection, permitting, those sorts of things.
A couple of permits underway, some final sites yet to be determined. trying to finalize the offtake agreements prior to announcing any of them.
Okay, great. And the other, always the sort of big factor with Birchtech, and I was reading this morning, press release from March 4th, 2024, that you had won a large legal judgment, which has now been increased and also accruing interest daily, if I'm not mistaken, to 78.4 million. What can you tell us about that? That's
so we're in the collection phase of that now, James, and very much expecting that we'll be successful in the collection. We do have, of course, a contingency fee to pay to our attorneys of approximately 30%.
okay.
78 million is growing daily, as you mentioned, and considerably. So we do still very much expect, in spite of the fact that there's an appeal in place, we expect to be successful in the collection. We feel that the trial was handled extremely well. The judge's opinions post-trial were extremely well thought out, and detailed. So we feel very confident in our ability to be able to deal with the appeal. And what's very significant is that the final judgment came down with not only a joint and several collection notice, but also it reasserted the willfulness of the infringement, which
Right.
gives us some very strong positioning with regards to how we deal with the defendants. And we'll be working on that and using that significantly as we go forward in the collection process.
Sure. And I think that as part of this, as I understand it, as part of these matters that have been settled in the past, that it is the party that was infringing becomes party to a deal, if you would call it that, with Birchtech, and that becomes sort of more of a long-term purchase agreement as opposed to just a cash payment, where you become business partners. Is that correct?
So that's happened in the past. And presently, for example, we settled away a number of different defendant claims against defendants through our Iowa case, which is ongoing in 2025. And those new license holders now will include us in their request for proposal for providing materials to them to carry out that license process as those contracts come up for renewal. And so we're in a lot of cases in a preferred position to be able to buy for that business. And we very much expect to be successful in being able to increase our supply side business on the air side because of those settlements.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And one thing I would point listeners to is the shareholder deck or the slide presentation on the Birchtech website, which I think is excellent. And that was the sort of next steps, which every company has in their slide deck. That was actually the first bullet point, was that very large matzo ball, as I would call it, 78.4 million hanging out there. And then the second bullet point, as it should be, was how, or that money would be deployed mainly into the water business.
Correct.
I think that as the last time we spoke, I was really getting the idea that is more of an IP business, and that the analytical function in the H2O business is really the key part of it. Is that the way you look at it, Rick? And is that the way you?
Yeah, no, James. So really, what we did is we looked at what was our skill set, what could we do to break into the water business, which typically takes a decade or more.
Sure.
Of relationship building, because it's such a big business, and it's government type business, which takes many years to be able to break into.
Okay.
So we asked ourselves, what could we do to break into this business in a relatively short period of time, a few years, in order to be able to make a significant stake in that business. And so we decided that we'd stay in our own lane, stay with our analytical skills and our engineering and scientific know-how, and build the best analytical facility we could in the country, which we've done in North Dakota, probably the finest PFOA, PFAS analysis lab in the country, and then went forward and built out the best design center of its kind in Pennsylvania. And together between the two of them, we're able to offer water utilities through their engineering firms the best way to evaluate what their present situation is and what they need to do to be PFOA, PFAS compliant whenever the regulations come in, whether it's next year through their state or eventually in 2030 through the feds. And so we've become basically the tip of the spear for multiple engineering firms across the country, handling hundreds of different water utilities to help them figure out what's the best way for them to get at this PFOA, PFAS problem and find a real solution. And so between what we do in North Dakota and the complete rejuvenation setup that we have, along with product development in Pennsylvania, we're able to now bring water for analysis to North Dakota and spent carbons to Pennsylvania, rejuvenate those carbons, add our what I'd call special sauce to them, and send them back with 100% efficacy as if they were buying brand new GAC for about half the cost of what it would take for them to do that on an ongoing basis going forward. So now when a utility is looking at meeting these new regulations, they've got a hands-on demonstrable option to spending millions and millions of dollars on new GAC every 6 to 9 months when they come into compliance. And that's what we're bringing to market through these new facilities that we will start to build out later this year.
Okay, that's very interesting. And can the GAC itself, can it be rejuvenated more than one time? Infinitely. Okay, I love that word as an investor.
Yeah, there's a loss on generation of about, in our case, 7 to 8%, versus typically close to 20%. And that's again one of our advantages of our exclusive process, which we have developed. So we have very little loss on ignition in the process, 100% destruction of PFOA, PFAS, and 100% efficacy as compared to the best unused brand new virgin GAC. So we've got a great package that we're now bringing to market.
Wow. Yeah, that's it's something that I keep reading about. Forever chemicals, PFOA, PFAS, and I mean, to you, Rick, is there one sort of drop dead date when this issue needs to be addressed, or is it more sort of with different deadlines and the feds? And
there's hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on it now.
Okay.
Like in the mercury side of things, there are hundreds of different water utilities trying to figure out today what they're going to do tomorrow to meet these new regulations. And that's why taking a few steps back and building these facilities a year or more ago was so crucial to us being able to enter the business now successfully. Not only that, our research facilities will become a profit center themselves, not just a loss leader to get us into the game. They're becoming a profit center in their own right, because we charge for all the work that we do.
Sure.
So it's a double-sided sword for us going forward, and really positions us in the market virtually overnight compared to, should we just try to go out there and sell products into the market?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge opportunity. And in terms of also, again, back to the slide deck, but I did see a TAM, which is something we nerds love to call total addressable market of 1.5 billion. In that, how did you come up with that figure?
So it's roughly about 800 million annually now.
Okay.
But we see granular activated carbon, as many do, to be the go-to technology going forward, the lowest CapEx, the best comparative results given dollars spent to the other options of ionization or membrane technologies. And so we're basically going to follow that route of what we see as probable development, and be the folks that are there to optimize the OpEx once those systems are operating. And we are not only seeing that as an opportunity, but we've developed the expertise and know-how to do it as well, if not better than anybody else.
Sure. And who would your main competitors be? I believe I asked you that the last time we spoke.
Yeah, there's one big main competitor, which is Calgon.
Yep.
And they're very astute, do a great job. We think we can skate with them quite well.
Yeah, that's as I say, when you're talking about a total addressable market that's going from 800 million to 1.5 billion, that's obviously a huge opportunity.
Yes.
And do you think that I think that as you were doing the stock offering last week, which I started to get a lot of questions about Birchtech, and I should have mentioned this up top, but that was also in conjunction with an uplisting to the NYSE American, where the ticker symbol remains BCHT. But I think that is its own reward, uplisting always. So a lot of the questions I was getting about Birchtech were in terms of how you grow this thing without levering up the company. I mean, I think one of the bullet points in that slide deck is zero debt. And is that something you are comfortable with, or do you think at this point it might require some leverage to build these 6 facilities and attack this huge market opportunity that you have?
Sure. Interesting enough, we have a zero debt position on the balance sheet, and I think we can maintain it.
Okay.
With this raise and the significant funds that is placed on our balance sheet, and our low CapEx growth model going forward, on all areas other than when we build out these plants, I expect that we'll maintain or even grow our balance sheet nicely through 26 and into 27. The disbursement of funds as required to build these plants out will be spread over an 18-month period.
Okay.
They're highly financeable due to the 3-year turnaround on return on investment. And so we expect that, 15% max will be our input to build these plants out going forward of the total CapEx. We're also thinking that there's a strong probability that we can get municipal bonding type lending.
Sure.
And there's also the option, which we're pursuing in a number of different cases, where the municipality itself will participate in the CapEx requirements, in some cases fund it completely. So I don't expect to burn through a lot of cash over the next 2-3 years, in spite of the ability to build these facilities out.
Yeah, I think that's really a key point, is that also you have a source of funds that many other companies do not have, in terms of legal settlements and just this sort of years and years of your IP being paid off.
Yeah.
Ex facto. So
yeah, Jim, I've not mentioned that because I don't like to say anything about it until we have the check in hand. But there's a very real possibility that we will have, $50+ million added to our balance sheet sometime in this coming year. I would hope that it would be sometime this fall. I'm not making any prediction, but I feel very good about our position from a collection point of view. Those funds are not factoring into our discussion to date, nor do they need to. And,
sure.
And when they do arrive, we'll form a very, very strong additional base to the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that capital is always the key. And even though the Birchtech model, and again, this is something I was talking with a lot of different people last week, is somewhat capital light, I think when you start talking about a $1.5 billion TAM, it's actually worth throwing a few bucks at it. So, and obviously you've done all the financial modeling, so a 3-year payback is quite rare.
In this case, in these kinds of operations, it's never heard of.
Yeah.
And we are in a position where we can sit down with the engineering firms and the utilities and show them exactly how it works. So, you know, we're not throwing numbers at the wall here hoping it works. We take a very data-driven approach. We do all of the analysis for the engineering firms first off. We bring the utilities in, show them, give them results they need to go back and get the certifications they require to be able to move forward. And then we show them all of the dynamics of what it takes for us to build this out and operate it, and give them the opportunity to push back in any way they want. But at the end of the day, we expect to end up with an offtake agreement that guarantees, you know, 10 to 20 years of processing, with a planned 3-year break-even point on the plant.
Oh, that's impressive. I mean, I must. I can imagine if you go to a local water utility that they may never have seen something in that sort of.
No, it hasn't. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, and obviously we have technology now. AI, here it comes, that would make processing all those data and coming up with that modeling very, very quick. I think that we had discussed that in a prior conversation also. But if you want to, as we're coming up on the end here, Rick, if you want to just take a sort of CEO view of AI and how it's impacting Birchtech, because everybody's talking about that every day. So
it's interesting. As much as we embrace the AI, as many companies are at this point, we find ourselves being a bit old school in that there's certain trade secrets and patent experiences that we've had, and the development of the new SEAs that we will be bringing forward, and the rejuvenation process that we've developed in-house really doesn't lend itself to AI without us divulging all of the real hard engineering decisions that went into getting there. So we're keeping what we've developed close to the vest, and offering it out as a data-driven proof approach rather than a highly transferable analytical approach. And that may not sound straightforward, but we're taking people through the process, showing them what we can do for them without telling them exactly how we get them there. And we learned that the hard way, Jim, after spending tens of millions of dollars in legal to keep our stuff private. And all they're interested in at the end of the day is, does it work, and can it save me money, and is it feasible for me to put it in place? And we're nodding our head at every point.
Sure. Yeah, I think that there's back to the old economics days, which was a long time for me, a long time ago. But yeah, that's sort of like a deadweight loss in this whole process, just inefficiency.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of, as we come up at the end of the half hour here, obviously doing a follow-on offering puts a wrench in everything, but you at some point will report 2025 earnings. So do you have a date picked out for that? And
not finalized. It'll be sometime towards the end of this month. The auditors haven't let us know exactly when they'll be ready. Looking forward to bring that forward to the market. I don't see any follow-on raises given the fundamentals of the judgment and what we expect to bring down there, along with our lack of need for CapEx funding going forward, other than what we've already secured. So I think that's it for us for years to come, and I Hope I don't ever have to eat those words, but that's my expectation at this point. I think we have everything we need to build shareholder enterprise value, and we're going to be hard at it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that you're very busy every day, and to the extent that you, as the CEO, are pulled away from a business in which you have a significant and recently grown portion of your own private net worth, to have to deal with people like myself on the offering side, which is what I used to do. I do not do that anymore. Is unfortunate, but congratulations, you made it.
Yes, yeah, no, I think the additional, the introduction to the New York Stock Exchange will be great for our shareholders. We'll finally get to tell our story and have it actionable by all of the institutional investors in the country. I think it will increase the liquidity significantly. And I believed in it so much, I invested $750,000 of my own personal cash in this, in spite of being a significant shareholder. So I'm investing in myself and the company, and look forward to making sure that works out for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to wrap up. And as you know, I think most people who watch this know I am based in New York City. So if you're ever headed to the NYSE American, please stop by and we'll get you together with some interested investors. And they always ask some very annoying questions, just like I do.
Look forward to. We will be going there to ring the bell sometime in the next few weeks. So I'll give you a heads up when we're coming, and we'll get together for sure.
I will be here. Thanks a lot, Rick. Thanks always for your time, and great to talk to you again. And congratulations on the offering and the uplisting.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.